and welcome to the 10th episode of OTalakayan. OTalakayan is PAOT's first online interview program that tackles different issues and topics in OT practice and education. We're down to our last 5 episodes on telehealth. Hi, Kim.
Hi Lee, good afternoon everyone. So just a recap of what happened during our last session. It was all about sensory integration. So our resource persons talk about considerations, strategies on how SI could still be delivered through telehealth. So for today's session, it will be all about cognitive behavioral therapy delivered via telehealth. So our esteemed resource person for today will talk about considerations, our roles, and minimum requirements on the part of the therapist and that of the parent and the child for it to be delivered via telehealth. So maybe Lee, you can introduce to our viewers our esteemed resource person for today's episode.
Okay, so our today's guest is the president of the Philippine Academy of Occupational Therapists. He has been practicing for 21 years and he has been serving for 15 years in the association. Anthony is an associate fellow candidate of CBT Australia and he has been providing CBT via telehealth for 2 years already. Hi, Anthony.
Hi,
Thank you for joining.
Lemuel. Yes, yes. Okay. Hi. Okay. Do I
All right.
start now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. For the purpose of an understanding, I made actually a PowerPoint for this. So I'm going to now screen share. Is that okay, Lemuel? Yes. Okay. So, yeah. Give me a few minutes. So. Okay. So can you hear me, Lemuel? Hello?
Hi, yes, I can.
Hi, can you hear me? Is it clear? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon. So I'm going to present the promotion of mental health amidst this pandemic. You could actually use this for your clients. You could use this for your children. You could also use this for um, yourself. Okay, so um, this is not about knowing the basics of CBT. So some of you have taken the certificate courses already. Some of you are new to this, so you could actually read more about CBT, but this presentation is not more of describing what CBT is. Well, there is of that, but not much of the flow or the structure. So it's really more about how to do it via tele, okay, and how to also do it for yourself, for your clients, and for your and for their family. Okay, just a brief background. Cognitive behavior therapy is actually school of therapies based on the premise that it's not what happens or the situation that causes how we feel. It's actually how we think about the situation. Okay, it's one of the most extensive approaches that has a lot of results when it comes to its use to different psychiatric and psychosocial disorders. It is one of the most effective techniques to address the different problems. So what are these tips to use CBT? Okay, because this is actually an approach for mental health, my first take is it's important that you as a professional is able to take care of your mental health. I do not advise you to use CBT if you yourself are actually affected, no, and you're too stressed. So in fact, that's one of our first guideline. Okay, we can only do our duties. Okay, if we ensure the safety and physical and mental health and well-being of the practitioner. So that's us. Oh, that's why I entitled my slide, Ako Muna. Okay, that's part of the interim guideline. So it's important that you know to yourself that you're mentally healthy or mentally stable now before you could do the CBT. Okay. The second, okay, tip to use the CBT for your clients is it's important that you help your client, and also for your own mental health, you help yourself identify your own feeling or feelings. Okay, there's an Australian study that there's actually a mix of emotions during the COVID-19 lockdown. So some experience some positive emotions, a lot have negative emotions, but also, um, majority actually experience mixed emotions. This is based on Australia. So so the next step is to actually help your client and help yourself. So if you're doing this first for yourself, okay, help the person identify the thoughts around the feelings. So what is the feeling? Okay, and then what is the thought behind those feelings? And then it's also important at some point to scale, okay, how distressing are these thoughts? So in a scale of 1 to 10 or 10 to 100, how distressing are these thoughts? No? So that actually helps us determine if actually the feelings, okay, experienced are quite commensurate with the thoughts. No? So it's important that in the current situation, no, because we are in unusual time, okay, mental health is actually really challenged for everyone. Because the definition of mental health is actually to have that state of well-being wherein one realizes his own potential and can actually go through and able to solve the daily stresses, the usual stresses of life. So our current stressor now is actually different. It's a pandemic. So each one of our mental health is actually challenged. So before we could actually do the CBT to our clients, it's important that we look in ourselves and if we're capable to actually um, execute it. No? So it's important to identify that feeling. It's important to pause. It's important to identify and help our clients, help ourselves, no, determine what are the thoughts behind these feelings. And I think this is a very important tip. No, it's important to emphasize the presence of oneself, to be present for your own self. As OTs, okay, it's because of the popularity of the philosophy doing, being, and becoming. Okay, we have to actually slowly reflect if at times this is actually applicable. For now, there are times we cannot do. So therefore, we have to sense, pause, stop, look at something, and then try to sense, okay, what am I feeling? What am I experiencing? So slowly, we are able to become present for ourselves. So you could also do this to your client. Okay. The use of CBT, it's important that we understand this concept of it is what it is. Okay. So there are some facts. So as long as they're not fake news, they're coming from actually reliable authority. Um, it is what it is. Okay. There are a lot of things that we have to do to actually prevent transmission. And even though we do it and keep on doing it, we, because of our economy, and because of the limitation of the testing, okay, the Philippines, we still do not know if we actually have flattened the curve. It is what it is. After all the lockdown, after doing all the tips, after actually following the guidelines, and on top of our all worries about our job, our clients, it is what it is that we still do not know if actually there are less surge later on. Okay. Okay. Why is it important to be present with oneself? Because we have to now, okay, these negative feelings we have, anxiety, fear, depression, sadness, anger, okay, all of these negative emotions, okay, are coming more from the fact that the pandemic threatens the usual and external sources of our security and well-being. Before, we're very comfortable. Now we feel like we are actually secure if we're able to go abroad, okay, um, be in a nice resort, okay, buy the book that you want whenever buy the book that you want, or um, be successful. So the reality is now it's hard to do this. But the question is, are all of these endeavors or occupations are they really the source of our security and well-being? So it's actually important to ask that question. Looking at these two pictures, it's important to ask. So the usual picture of success is you have to be on top of the world, having a lot of things. Is that really success? Okay. Or being in a very comfortable state where people serve you, is that really okay the source of our security and well-being? So in most of our lives, some of the sources of our security and well-being are more external. Okay, they're outside, and suddenly because of the pandemic, they're now threatened. Okay, our clinics, okay, our income, okay, our at times status, our possessions, so our sense of friendship with others when we spend time with friends, these are all actually more external sources of security and well-being. So this lockdown and quarantine is actually making us now sense that it is now important for us to look first within, to slowly look inside our homes, our family, ourselves, what is really our sense of well-being. It's actually worth sensing, feeling, and thinking to determine, okay, what is really define our well-being. So it is important to look first within. And slowly, when you look at within and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Okay. Some of you might answer fear. Some of you might answer anger. Some of you might answer sadness. All of them are valid because all of these negative feelings have certain thoughts that call for us to change, thoughts that we need to change. And being a CBT practitioner, these thoughts are the ones that actually um, need to be revisited because they're the ones actually causing these negative feelings. No? So some of them could be related to perfection. Some of them could be related to wanting to be in control. Some of them is related to um, loss of certain things. No? So some of them is a desire to have a perfect self or a perfect environment. So these are all related to those thought processes or thought distortions. So we are now actually called these negative feelings, okay, when we actually entertain them. They're like visitor in your house. Okay, sadness comes in, knocking at your door. Fear comes in, knocking at your door. Anger comes in, knocking at your door. Slowly, we have to actually entertain them. And slowly, we have to learn how to actually accept that we're feeling that way. Because they are actually a calling to change the thoughts that come with them. What are examples? What are the examples of these unrealistic thoughts or thought distortions? One, life or we need to be comfortable. Now, because of this pandemic, we need to change and we have to consistently accept that life is difficult. In Tagalog, pagbabago, the way we live. Okay, I was actually thinking at one point that we have to actually redefine safety management, no? Because the safety management now is different and it's hard at kailangan magbago. The other thought distortion is that we need to be perfect or our environment need to be perfect. The reality is, yes, it is a beautiful world, but the pandemic exists, but still a beautiful world. And along it were the consequences of it, the risk of infection when you go out, the loss of income or business, or other forms of failure. And they both of them exist. Why? It's not a perfect world, and it's not and we are also not perfect. My thought on that, kasi tayo'y tao, pagkatao. The other is that the thought that for us to be alive, we need to be loved by others. And we need to be consistently with other people. Well, the other realistic thought is our existence is life itself. And death is actually inevitable. And that is a fact of life. Okay, we live, we also die. We call it kamalayan ng buhay versus ang buhay na punong-puno ng love at forever. Meron ba talagang forever? Okay? The other unrealistic thought is that we can control everything. We can prepare everything to prevent things. Well, the reality is, yes, I or we are able to control some, but I mostly lack control in the greater scheme of things. Why? Kasi ako ay tao. It goes back again to pagkatao. We could manage to control the risk of transmission at the best that we can. But the reality is, in the greater scheme of things, we lack control. And we need to accept that as a fact. So, upon looking at those distortions, slowly, when we look at within and we look at the feelings and the distortions that what come with it, after that, it's important that we help ourselves, the client and the family, to find lakas ng loob or inner strength with a certain form of optimism, as well as sense of acceptance na change the way we live. Okay, this is a very funny picture when I was Googling about an image of lakas ng loob, you know, and I saw this picture of born a kid, no? But it's nice that as early as in children, no, they already promote lakas ng loob, no, because this is actually needed at times. Accepting certain reality hopefully gives us the courage to actually face, no, what's in store for us and face the strength to change. Kailangan hugutin natin ang lakas ng loob. The other tip to use CBT is that it's important that in using this technique, okay, if we are attuned to the presence of the client, to the feelings of the client and thoughts of the client, okay, we slowly instill hope. Okay? Ika nga sa Tagalog, habang may buhay, may pag-asa. Okay. I have this one client. he actually said is that he is in the spectrum and he has actually depression, but he's very smart. At some point, okay, he was very sad and angry. Okay, it's because the family was fighting over because the father left the house, no, and went out and then came back. When he came back, he has to actually do the different sanitation procedures, and they end up fighting. The mom and the dad end up fighting, and so he was actually very, very um, um, sad and angry. Okay, and then I asked the client, okay, what's making you sad? He's actually sad. So this is the importance of actually identifying the different feelings. He's actually sad because the mother and the father are fighting, and it's not. He's saying the family should not be this way. Okay, it actually says to himself that the family is um, it's like dysfunctional. Okay, so that's the thought that comes with the sadness. His family is dysfunctional. And then I ask, what's making you angry? Okay, and then he's saying to my dad, okay, because he actually raises his voice. And then I said, are you angry more to the sadness of, I mean, to your dad raising his voice, or are you angry because all of the things, all of the adjustments for sanitation, and disinfection needs to be done. And then he said that it's actually all the procedures. And he is also angry that he cannot go out. So this is the importance of looking at those feelings and the different feelings and the different thoughts that come with it and being present with your client. And then he started talking about, so yeah, but it is hard. But as I've said, how is life? Is life easy? Life is difficult. Therefore, it's important that we actually change, about this, how we do things now because of the pandemic. Well, hope, installation of hope. We hope to have a vaccine, but it would take a while, no? So it's important to instill that hope, no, to the client. So habang may buhay, may pag-asa. And actually, that's part of our job as an occupational therapist. Okay, I put here Ibong Adarna. No? So actually, that our logo, one of its inspiration is Ibong Adarna. As occupational therapist, okay, um, um, it's important that we actually help our client. Okay, um, um, be hopeful, and installation of that hope. Okay, helps them to heal. No, because the ibong adarna, the bird, it's either we see it as a curse or we see its potential effects for healing. And so it's important to also make our clients see that the lockdown and being with their family, okay, is not totally that bad. There are more. You're able to actually spend more time with the kids. You're able to know your kid more. Okay, the kid is able to explore more other things. Okay, new activities. So we try to sense also if the pandemic is really that bad. Okay, or there's also some things that comes with it that could be uh, um, part of our healing process. So I have a family that I work with, and every time they go abroad, they fight. When there was actually 2.5 months of lockdown, we were all actually looking at the possibility that after 3 to 5 days, mag-aaway-away na nila sa sabok. Luckily, it's just in the last 2 weeks that they're having conflicts, and they're actually trying to resolve it. So at some point, there's healing properties, no, to be together, no. So it's important to give your clients some perspective and instill hope, and that's part of our job as occupational therapists. As Pope Francis has said, we need to build a civilization of hope. I like this picture because That mass, no, it is an evening mass, no. So usually in this part of the church, no, it's all usually full by tourists. And suddenly it was night, it was gloomy, it was raining, and then at that time, Pope Francis was actually praying, no, and it's actually um, very inspiring and very hopeful to see, that God is with us at some point. God is there, okay? So no matter what. And if you see the cross here, that's the cross that was actually used during one of the plagues in Europe. They used it again, no? So it's important to sense, no, and find that kind of hope. Okay. It could be one way is through connecting them to their sense of spirituality. Even kids. And so it's important to be present to yourself, be present for your client, sense what you need to change later on to your life. So be present to your client, be present to yourself, sense the feeling, sense the thinking, and then slowly sense what you need to change to your life or the client's life, to your routine, to your habits, to your roles, to your occupational engagement, but most importantly, sense what to change in your beliefs. After all, that's the core of CBT. Now, as you look at this picture, sense and ask again to yourself, what do you feel now, given all the circumstances happening? What are the feelings that you have? What are the thoughts that you have? But it's important for us to sense the feeling. And at some point, after going through the feeling and thinking process, okay, after engaging in all those processes, slowly you help yourself, your client, the child restructure the routine and occupations, okay, in terms of how to work, okay, what are really the activities they value, how would they like to evolve. It's all there, the keywords, okay. Um, this picture came from the lifestyle redesign of USC. I just borrowed it, and it's all there. How would they like to still connect to their friends? Okay, so it's all there. And actually, in restructuring of the occupations, it's important to restructure this for our survival at the present times. I was actually looking for a picture of survival. Suddenly, I thought, oh, there's the Banawe rice terraces. And I've been to this place several times, and every time I go there, I always see an old lady or old man farming. You know, what happened to them? They were not able to farm before because it's all full of mountains. And to innovate, they have to actually carve the mountain to make it into a plantation. And through that, they have survived. And people in Banawe so far, okay, are one of the people that actually survive in terms of the number of years. They actually live longer. And one time I saw an 80-year-old woman still farming and planting rice. At some point, they survived. And we look for symbols of survival, nasa atin lang pala. Nasa Pilipinas pala. No? Funny to also think that at some point, Thanos hid there. Okay, so the Avengers movie, right? Okay, so at some point, when the world was melting, at some point Thanos hid in the Banawe rice terraces. And the inspiring part is that if you actually spread this mountain or these carved mountains, they say that it occupies half of the world. No? And if you see, these people have already evolved, they survive, they live longer. And it's important to also sense what's their definition of success. What's their definition of well-being? Is it all external? Ah, something to learn from them. Because we have to restructure our occupations, and we could only do that fully if we restructure our thinking for survival. Okay. There are two pictures here. One is actually the turtle. The turtle has been there for about millions of years. They actually coexisted with the dinosaurs and the T-Rex, but they are still there right now because they have adapted. So it's important to adapt our thinking, to adapt our ways of living our lives and our routines, our habits, to live so that we do not become extinct like the dinosaurs. The other picture is actually the picture of a water lily. The water lily can actually thrive in harsh conditions and can later on blossom a pretty flower. No? So the water lily, even though there are a lot of pollutants, no, it is able to filter and try to sense within itself, okay, the nutrients that it only needs to actually grow. So it's important to look at within. It's important to look at our thinking processes for survival. And as we restructure our thinking, okay, we restructure our life for survival. Bagong kamalayan ng buhay. Okay. You've seen this picture of the small turtle again in my title slide. And why I chose it, oh, can this turtle live for 100 years? We do not know. He continuously swims? Does he know that he will would he be eaten by other predators? We don't know. But will he survive for 100 years? We don't know. Nobody knows it because we are not in control of this turtle's life. It can or it couldn't. So it's important to accept that in the greater scheme of things, we do not have control, but we have to actually adapt like the turtle. So some CBT online resources. Okay, these are from the World Confederation of Cognitive and Behavioral Therapies, from the Beck Institute, and there's also some reference for kids, how to teach them coping. So in here, they teach kids about distraction tool, relaxation tool, their action tool, but I'd like to emphasize most importantly, the thinking tool. So you could check this out, okay, as you use CBT for kids. No? But then again, I always emphasize sense first your own mental health before using this approach. Some acknowledgement from key people, okay, that made me thought about what to present this afternoon, and acknowledgement to where I've gotten the pictures to illustrate the proposed arguments. So look at this picture again. Sense yourself. What do you feel? What is that negative feeling that you are experiencing? Maybe it's time to open your door, sense that negative feeling that he is a visitor or she is a visitor, and from them, what are the thoughts that comes with it? And yes, you are called to change. So instead of doing, being, and becoming, from a CBT perspective, I actually proposed sensing, thinking, doing, and surviving. Again, sensing, thinking, doing, surviving. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, for the presentation. So maybe just to highlight things that really struck me or us, it would be first looking after oneself, being present for oneself, and looking within. And I think that's a very important process before we can even handle or give some strategies to our clients. And then you walk us through with the possible thoughts that we are having right now during this pandemic. And even if we have these thoughts, we shouldn't stop to continuously instill hope our clients. And after engaging in all these processes, there's a call towards restructuring our occupation, restructuring our routines with emphasis on survival and adapting our ways of thinking and living. It's a very
Yes.
informative
Mm.
presentation. So, Lee?
Okay. So yeah, we could still have some questions for 15 minutes. Yeah. Okay. A few minutes. Are there questions?
So far, parang we're not yet getting any questions from the audience. No? Um, but thank you, Anthony, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure that the audience got a lot of insights from you, and it's important to note, gusto ko yung binigay mo dun sa dulo na sensing, and
Thinking, doing, surviving.
very, very apt for this pandemic. Okay, so before we end, again, thank you very much for joining us, Anthony, and thank you for the 91 participants that we have this afternoon. Like always, as we end our OTalakayan, we plug the next session. So on Thursday, we won't be having a live session. Instead, we'll be rerunning episodes 3 to 10. So just like our May 18 and 19 reruns, we are gonna put this in YouTube for the private viewing of members. So that's part of the member benefits. So the email address that you used for registration in PAOT, that's where we'll share the access for this video. So again, episodes 3 to 10. So that includes today's session. This is episode 10. The rerun, we're gonna make it available for a longer time. It's available from June 4 to June 7. So sulitin na natin na may rerun ng 7 episodes. 8 episodes, no? Okay. All right.
There's a question yata. Oh, okay.
Yan natin. Meron nga ba? Oh. Okay. Kim, let's ask this na. Okay. So there's one question here. Any thoughts about toxic positivity?
Oh, it's the first time I heard of toxic positivity. Okay, but I think the advantage of CBT, it's not about being positive or negative. It's about being realistic. Okay, so one of the core foundations, of the CBT is a saying coming from what's this, Hamlet? There's neither good or bad. There's nothing good or bad. It's thinking that make it so. So actually, it's not much about positivity. It's more being realistic. Okay. So yeah, but I haven't heard personally yet of really toxic positivity. Okay. So but there's such a thing as false optimism. Okay, like you're optimistic but it's false. It's actually better compared to more based on certain studies. Okay, that false optimism is the same as toxic positivity, but in general, false optimism it's not under CBT. It's a different school of approach. It's under resiliency. Okay. Yeah. Are there other questions? Yeah.
Okay, sir, maybe the viewers would also want to know, would there really be any changes if we will be doing CBT through in-person versus CBT through telehealth? Would there be additional considerations that we need to have before we can run it through telehealth?
Actually, if you are following the structure of the session, okay, in my experience, I find it naman effective because CBT is very structured, no? So more or less, um, it's effective, no? But it's important to always consider now that the pandemic is another context. Okay, that's actually eliciting other feelings, no? So that's why I actually um, formatted the session. I mean the webinar into more really for the therapist and for the family and for the client. Because if you're able to do it to yourself, you could actually do it to the clients. Okay. Yes.
Lee, do we still have some questions from the audience? Sir, I think there's none. So
Wala
again,
na.
we would want to thank you for gracing us.
Meron ako nakita.
Meron pa po pala. Wait lang, sir.
There's one. Bakit ako yung nakakakita? Okay. Because siguro naka-private ba ito? What if we can't get the child's core thought? Takes a long time to tell us their core thought. Okay. So, okay. Two things. One, sense first the child, no? Because it takes a while because maybe you haven't interacted too much with the child. So that's why there has to be some enough presence for the child. The other is you could validate those thoughts or inference you have about the child's thoughts through the parent or through the caregiver. And actually, it's easier to get core thoughts from children. It's a matter of asking of being present and asking the appropriate questions. And you could be creative also in some activities that you could present to get the core thoughts. Okay. Yeah. Any significant factors or differences to consider when doing CBT in person versus remotely? Well, I think it's similar to all approaches that presence actually the physical presence would actually, I said word presence. Okay, now it's part of the therapeutic rapport and therapeutic relationship. So it's more effort to make them feel that you are actually genuine and authentic, which are actually not only core of CBT but core of any counseling approach. Okay. Okay.
Okay, I guess there are no more questions from the audience. Thank you again, Anthony.
Okay.
And thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you next week on our next live OTalakayan. That's all for now. Goodbye. Good afternoon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.